Hey guys, what's up? It's Karl back with my revisited review of the M1 MacBook Pro. So I've been using this as my main device now for almost 2 months. It came out at the end of 2020. It has almost replaced my 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is I think 2.5 times the price than this entry-level model. And I know a ton of you have asked, how has the MacBook performed? Is it still an option to buy right now, or should you wait for those fabled 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros, which should be coming sometime 2021? We know that the refresh is coming. Is it still worth it to grab the entry-level model? So as I said, in terms of replacing my 16-inch, my Intel-based MacBook Pro, I can confidently say this performs better than this machine if you are sticking solely within the Apple ecosystem. So all of these YouTube vids, everything across the channel is edited on Final Cut Pro. I can easily say this handles footage better. We're recording in 4K than a $5,000, $6,000 machine, which is honestly kind of sad, but just really shows the potential and the power of the M1 chip and the optimization in macOS. So with that said, timelines are buttery smooth, scrubbing through footage is an absolute breeze. There are some kinks though in the armor. I do notice it crashing a bit more, the audio seems to skip out from time to time, so there are those little bugs that I think can obviously be solved in software updates that will optimize this better. And sometimes I go back and forth, is it worth it to have a slower experience, but have less bugs, have the program crash less, or to have a faster experience and go through those hiccups? And that's actually a reason why I haven't upgraded to Big Sur over on my 16-inch. And other than that, the experience, like I said, if you're keeping it in that Apple ecosystem, so if you're using Safari, all of their stock apps, it is by far the best laptop that you can currently get. The battery life, I think that's the real bread and winner. You can get up to 20 hours. In my actual day-to-day use, if I'm not, say, editing video footage, I can get 19 hours before I have to juice up this device. And that's kind of unheard of. That sets a benchmark and is industry standard now in battery performance for a laptop. Obviously, since it's an Apple device, it's built like an absolute tank and industrial finishing is near flawless. So you've got a great keyboard. It's the Magic Keyboard. You no longer have the issues with the butterfly switches we saw a couple years ago. Of course, industry-leading trackpad, I think it's the best. Speakers are obviously one of the best, again, in that 13-inch form factor, and they managed to keep it all in this extremely slim and thin profile. And with that said, I think the only difference between this and, say, the MacBook Air is the fan design. So this thankfully still has a thermal cooling system, whereas on the MacBook Air, they've gotten rid of all the fans altogether. So this does dissipate heat better, which means this can just handle a heavier load for a longer amount of time without starting to throttle. On the flip side though, there are still things that could break your experience with the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and I think that applies for all M1 chips in general, not just on the MacBook Pro, but for the MacBook Air, for the Mac Mini, and for that potential 14-inch, for that 16-inch, until they make software updates. For example, on Final Cut, those hiccups, that can become super annoying and frustrating if you're editing on Adobe Premiere. The whole Adobe suite is still kind of bugged. Doing simple edits in Photoshop bogs the machine down, you still get a ton of crashes, and obviously I'm sure Adobe is working pretty hard to make that software update, but until we get it, almost unusable, I would say. The experience on iOS, a mobile app, is way better. The experience on this Intel-based machine, way better. Another thing that's bothered me coming from the 16-inch, I know that we're blessed with 4 USB-C ports, but having only the option for 2 on the 13-inch, being in the creative space, I typically have a dongle to, say, stick my SD card in, one, of course, cable to charge. That leaves me with no additional ports. You still thankfully have a headphone jack, but I'd expect the pro level models, I get that the base starts at around $1,200. I think it should have the minimum of 4 ports. Speaking of base level, storage options are still stuck at 256 gigs. If you want to upgrade, Apple always overcharges for their storage sizes. So my recommendation, just grab a portable hard drive if you want to up the storage space. And despite all of those hiccups and shortcomings, if you can possibly look past those, if you don't mind the occasional crash, definitely more than on, say, an Intel-based, this will be the best experience that you'll get on a laptop. I still personally would wait not only for that 14-inch, not only for the new 16-inch, wait for Apple to fix Big Sur. Wait for other third-party developers to become compatible with the M1 chip. Simple plugins on Final Cut no longer work. Photoshop or Lightroom should not crash while editing a simple photo. That is unacceptable if you pay $1,200 base for a MacBook Pro. It should work well, and it should work well out of the box. In theory, it works amazing. We're just not quite there yet. So my recommendation, if you're still eyeing the 13-inch, wait for a software update. And with that said, we will probably see the 14-inch because the screen, even though it is nice and crispy, it is definitely dated. So we still have a ton of bezel around the outside. That rumored 14-inch should hopefully trim down some of these bezels. And according to the rumors, we are actually reintroducing MagSafe. It'll probably be a new kind from what we've seen previously, and the SD card slot, as well as removing the touch bar, which honestly, I really don't use too much anyways. I think my favorite pastime is scrolling through emojis in iMessage. No loss there. And supposedly the biggest change is coming to the design. We're kind of getting rid of the rounded or curved corners, and it's gonna be more similar to the flat design of the iPhone 12. So that will be super interesting. Curious to hear your thoughts. I would definitely hold out if you already haven't got on the hype of the 13-inch with the MacBook Air or even the Mac Mini. Wait until we get that new update. Apple will also update the chip inside. It will be called either the M1X or even the M2 chip. And with that, we'll probably get even better performance, and hoping to God it will be compatible with third-party applications. Just please make Photoshop as buttery smooth as Final Cut, and make Final Cut not crash as much. It doesn't really get any more difficult than that. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the revisited review of the 13-inch MacBook Pro. It honestly just shows how powerful the new silicon chips are from Apple. They are just so much better than what we've got over on Intel. I'm super pumped if they update the 16-inch. That's probably the one that I'll be looking to upgrade to. Let me know down below in the comments, and I will catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace.